So this organism I had to get a lesson in. I'm not sure if it's Latin or Greek. Probably Latin. That Lentia is slow and flavum is yellow. Who knows this sort of thing? Not me. But anyway.
Lentia is slow.
Lentia is slow.
Lentia
is slow. Flavum
Flavum?
is yellow. Yeah, that's what someone said it was from music. Yeah. So we have 3 cases. The first one was a 78-year-old female admitted with hemoptysis. They did a bronch on 5/9. And they found diffuse, just a little tiny bit about each case because I don't really actually know that much. Diffuse hemorrhage from all the airways, mostly like cardiogenic etiology or hypertension. And actually Dr. Hall looked all this up and I'm kind of stealing from Dr. Hall in infection control. The second patient was a 50-year-old male who also had bronchoscopy. He has had a lung transplant and he's had a number of bronchoscopies. His results have been normal, but he's had bronchs on 4/4, 4/13, 5/15, and 6/12. And all of them, none of them grew any AFB except this one on 5/15. And then the third one was an 85-year-old female with bilateral infiltrates associated with cough and weight loss. So she had bronchoscopy on 5/25. She's been on a prednisone taper. Her bronch result was normal, but had some increased white secretions, and she grew out Pseudomonas and this Mycobacterium. So because this is sort of an unusual isolate, and none of these patients necessarily we really thought had a mycobacterial illness, we were concerned that the common thread through all of them is that they had had a bronchoscopy. And in fact, 2 of them had been bronchhed with the same scope and 1 with a different scope. So Dr. Hall...
But nice time in between each, like a week to 2 weeks in between each.
Right.
So it wasn't like 1, 2, 3. They weren't all processed on the same day. They were 2 of them were read out on the same day, which was also curious.
Yeah, but that would sort of, in the lab, that's the first thing we think about. And we do have processes in place that if we have multiple positives from the same processing run, we do look at those and see if they're the same species and look at any commonalities there so that we know if we're cross-contaminating during our processing steps. We actually do take a lot of care about that. So we kind of had rolled that out from the beginning, and the bronchoscopy seemed to be the common thread. So infection control, well actually a little bit about this organism. It is pretty unusual, but there's a nice review in emerging infectious diseases, and there's a nice little chart if anyone wanted to look that up. So it's been associated with infections of cervical lymph nodes, and then some lung disease, and then some invasive disease in patients with HIV infection particularly. But not a very common organism. I looked back to see if we'd had any other isolates on the main campus, and we have not over the past year. We had a couple referred to us from Metro last summer, a little cluster from Metro last summer as well. So infection control has begun an investigation, and they're looking at their process for what they do with the bronchoscopes. And I have some pictures that I stole from their PowerPoint that they were putting together. So this is a picture of the bronchoscope, and there are 2 ports. One, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I didn't know this. One where the saline is instilled, and then 1 port where it's aspirated from. And so we got the bronchoscopes that were in question in the laboratory, and we did some culturing of those scopes, and this is a picture of us. We pushed 100 mils of saline through each of those ports and collected at the bottom, and then we concentrated it just like you would a BAL. That's a large volume saline specimen, so we pushed saline through, or we dripped it through really, and then we concentrated that at the bottom. We went through our normal procedures here in the laboratory. So we'll see if we're lucky enough to grow anything. I don't know if we will, because these scopes had been decontaminated by the regular procedure, which is a cleaning. I think they first brush the scope, and each... What do you like? Oh yeah, this was from her PowerPoint. So I just pulled this out to show the machine that the scopes are cleaned in.
And it's a new machine.
Is it? I don't know that.
Yes, it's not. They used a different one before, and I don't know if it's when they changed the bronch suite last year. They got these, but it's a new way how they do it.
Yeah. And then, so one of the things that we're curious about is there's a filter system that's on the outside that the water comes in, goes through this filter system, and then there's some filters on the inside too. And there's a detergent that is hooked up to it. What is the detergent? I forget. Or a disinfectant, really. Oh, it's glutaraldehyde. It's glutaraldehyde that goes through it. So they get washed with glutaraldehyde and then an alcohol rinse, and that's what happens on the machine. But one of the curious things was that these filters get changed every 6 months, and the filter was changed on May 31st. So it would have been nice to have the filter to see if that mycobacterium had been built up on the filter, but we're not going to be able to check that out. So it's a little bit hard to say whether we'll get anything out of these cultures or be able to figure this out. I think they took the bronchoscopes and sent them to the company to look for leaks or cracks in the scopes and make sure they were functioning.
So they separated those
100%.
two.
They pulled those out, so hopefully we won't see any more. But if you hear about this, that might be what's going on. So try to nip the little cluster
I don't know how
in the
many
bud.
different strains of lenticulation exist in the world, but if this turns out to be anything, we will send out for strain testing. At this time, we haven't.
You saved it.
But
Yeah, we
we save
saved
all
it.
our mycobacterial isolates, so they're here, but we haven't sent it out for strain testing yet.
It's never like a pathogen?
Oh, yeah, oh, no,
Yeah.
she had that sheet that.
Yeah,
that
this
sheet
sheet is
yeah,
a
right
little,
there.
this
Those
is a
are
little
all
review of
pathogens.
some
At
cases.
least
Oh,
people feel
okay.
it was a pathogen in those cases. It's like an MAI, but it's pigmented, so it's a slow-growing MAI-like organism, Mycobacterium avium intracellulare, but it makes that yellow pigment. MAI doesn't do that often. It can, but it doesn't do it quite as often as this one. And it was in our sequencing database, so we did have enough of them in our culture collection to be able to put it in our database, but we certainly don't see it regularly. And 3 in a week and a half was way over the top.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, there is a likelihood of random can happen. This doesn't seem like it. This just seems bizarre.
Yeah.
The other two patients, do you have, like one was immune suppressed, the other two were elderly, I think.
Let's see.
I mean, I know it's
78
bizarre
and
to have three
85.
different-
No, you're right. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
was a transplant and the other two were elderly.
And
They
all
could be.
scoped in May.
Yeah. And the first one of the group there, as I remember, had like the one colony. And then the second one had many, or at least relatively speaking.
Oh, that's right.
And then the third, I don't remember the number. But it was weird to me because I was thinking you want to make a story up that one passed it to the other with that week or two in between by the scope. You'd expect the first one to have the many and the other one. Although this is a very slow growing organism, maybe it took 2 weeks and just grew up right in the machine. That's
Right.
all a story though. We haven't proven anything, so we don't know
Right.
where it's coming
Whether it's in the scope or what's on the filter or, those biofilms will get you.
But these organisms, when we say slow, we're talking 2 or 3 weeks for it to grow. So you have to kind of wait for a while before there would be any results. Not like Rudy's leeches, which grew out the next day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.